Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we'll be focusing on the Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, who just returned home after wrapping up an official visit to the United Arab Emirates, and more specifically to Abu Dhabi, where he witnessed the signing of a number of cooperation protocols and agreements in terms of the fields of industry, the fields of economy, the development of the economy and the industrial sector in Egypt, in Jordan and in the United Arab Emirates. The signing of those agreements and the aim of sustainable economic development for the three countries, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, came of course in the past couple of days in Abu Dhabi, focusing on a number of fields that we will be discussing during the course of the daily debate for tonight, and we will be having more information about the meetings that happened on the sidelines of signing of those agreements between Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, his counterpart from Jordan, and the Minister of Industry in the United Arab Emirates, to be focusing on such an important topic for the future of the economy, for the future of growth and development for the industry of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan. I am honored to be having with me over the daily debate for tonight Dr. Hany Aziz, the former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for you. Thank you very much.
Anytime. We will be starting straight away with a report about the signing of a number of agreements regarding the economy, the sustainable economic development for Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, with the attendance of Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and his accompanying delegation, as well as the counterpart for Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli from Jordan and the Minister of Industry from the UAE.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said that he will follow up the formation of an Egyptian UAE teamwork to forge memos and agreements on new and renewable energy projects in order to accelerate inking these deals as soon as possible. Madbouli made the remarks during a meeting in Abu Dhabi on Saturday with UAE Industry and Advanced Technology Minister Sultan Ahmed Al Jaber. The Premier hailed the developing Egyptian UAE ties as well as their cooperation with Jordan within the framework of the integrated industrial partnership for sustainable economic development. He said that the new and renewable energy sector is one of the most promising domains for cooperation between Egypt and the UAE, referring to directives of President Abdel al-Sisi to enhance cooperation with the UAE. The Prime Minister touched on two renewable energy projects, including a 10,000 megawatts wind project in the Red Sea and a 200 megawatts solar and wind energy project. For his part, the UAE minister welcomed cooperation with Egypt in the aforementioned projects, noting that UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan gave directives to give top priority for furthering cooperation with Egypt. He added that the UN Climate Change Conference COP27, which Egypt will host in November, will offer a chance for pushing forward clean energy projects. He noted that the UAE is keen on offering all needed support for rendering successful the integrated industrial partnership for sustainable economic development.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. Dr. Hany Aziz, of course, we have listened to the details of what happened in the past couple of days in Abu Dhabi between Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and his counterpart from Jordan, the Minister of Industry in the United Arab Emirates, and the whole idea itself of signing a number of agreements in different fields, in about 5 different fields, for the development and the growth of a number of sectors in Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan. How do you see the idea of integration itself between the three countries?
Let me first thank you for inviting me to talk about this interesting subject and this much interesting development which happened the last few days. I think the approach is an excellent approach, a partnership between 3 countries which can offer the use of the potential capabilities of marketing in the whole region, not only limited to the 3 countries, is an essential element. We should not look into that just in terms of a financial flow of funds. Yes, it will, in my opinion, bring some direct investment, which Egypt much needed in this particular period of time. That's very welcomed. But at the end of the day, I believe in such partnership will be beneficial to at least the 3 countries, if not more countries of the region, using the potentials Egypt and the comparative advantages Egypt can provide, the comparative advantages the United Emirates can provide, over and above the financial contribution, because
yes,
we should not limit this to the idea everybody has that any cooperation with Gulf states is essentially just economic. No, it is not just economic. It is more than this. It is strategic in general. Don't forget that the relation between Egypt and the separate Emirates of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, before the United in the United Arab Emirates, are very long relationship. Yes. So many students from those Emirates studied in Egypt before, and then okay, they upgraded the studies in the US and in Britain, in the Western world, where they acquired more and more knowledge and more managerial skills and abilities. Therefore, the relation is not recent. And it pleased me to say that the model of cooperation between Egypt and the United Arab Emirates is an essential role model which can be transmitted to other countries and other type of relation. This relation is 40, 50 years old without any major complexities. True, there might be difference sometimes. That's absolutely normal in any human activities. But I would underline that the vision, that the strategic interest of both countries is in the same direction, with more or less the same objective during the last 40, 50 years, with different government, with different leadership in both countries, but this was a solid base. One of the good reasons for this is the stability of policies in the United Arab Emirates towards Egypt in particular, understanding the interests Egypt can bring to such partnership, you know, in terms of its very dynamic diplomacy, for example, its network of relations worldwide. Therefore, limiting the aspect, because in the back mind of many persons who are not really aware of what's happening, they see it's just financial. It is not. It is essentially strategic vision for same objective. One of the several examples one can mention, for example, is the participation of the United Arab Emirates in the establishment of a major military hub in south of Egypt, near Safaga, upgrading the base there. It looks like it's a financial input. No, it's not financial input. United Arab Emirates, contrary to Saudi Arabia, do not have access to the Red Sea. Do not have access to the Gulf of Aden, do not have direct access to Suez Canal. Yes. Therefore, this place is of an extreme importance for the United Arab Emirates, you know, for the flow of its oil to the Mediterranean, to Europe. Therefore, if they have invested in upgrading the whole thing, reflect the strategic common interest between the two countries. I'm mentioning this as an example, you know, and there is tens of such examples showing that the financial economic aspect is not the essence of the cooperation. The essence of cooperation is the commonality of objective, the more or less similar vision concerning certain international situations or regional situations, and that's what how I perceive this. Very good, in a very good sense. Yes. In addition to it, the stability of the relationship and the stability of the internal regimes in the two countries is essential, Because this is, if you are not really sure of what happened in this country tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you cannot have the same vision. But here we know that the governance in the United Arab Emirates is a role model again. It is something marvelous because you have the central, type of government. Then you have a good deal of delegation of authority to each emirate for running their internal affairs. You have a redistribution of wealth between the, the more wealthy emirates towards the much less, and it's an excellent subject. There is no comparison I see to this, except, for example, in Switzerland, where you have a politic of cantons, etc., and working very well. Therefore, the stability of the United Arab Emirates is an essential aspect in the assessment which can be made in Egypt, and also the stability of policy in Egypt, over several decades, also is an essential element in the assessment our friends and brothers in the United Arab Emirates take into consideration to build up on this. And this has been working excellently. During the last several decades, 40, 50 years.
Yes, Doctor, you mentioned a number of important points. You've mentioned that there is a vision between Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, to be specific. There is also continuity between both political leaderships over the past 40 or 50 years, because the United Arab Emirates recently appointed a new leader in Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. What does it say that this appointment that took place a couple of weeks ago and today or this week, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, this meeting between Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, speaking about the future, as you mentioned, the vision for the future of the economic development, of the strategic relations as well, not just about the money, of the revenues, it's more about the relations itself. What does it say, the timing of those meetings and those agreements?
I don't think there is a real relation with this and the timing, for the simple reasons. As I said, it's a continued relation over time.
Yes.
And it continued before, it will continue and eventually improve further and go a step further now and the coming years. Hopefully, why not? There is always room for improvement and doing better. That's an absolutely normal thing. But I think you're probably right, because what we see, from the body language of the two leaders talking together, we have the impression that, and I think it's the right impression, that people, the two leaders and their ministers, they speak frankly, without, I would say, any things to hide. They can agree on a multitude of things. They can maybe disagree, we don't know, on minor things. It's a possibility, but all happens in a very professional manner, in an absolute mutual respect. And this is essential for the continuity, because you use this word, and it is the right word. The continuity of of sharing the same vision, and the same strategic interest. It's very important to have also same interests.
On the other hand, the relations you've mentioned, not just about the economic relations between Egypt and the United Arab Emirates or Jordan, what relations could be enhanced in the near future through those agreements and through different fields as well?
Yes, yes. First of all, I will call for the very early implementation on the ground of this agreement, because there is a big difference between, getting agreement, letter of interest, memorandum of interest, etc., and moving this into realistic things. Therefore, the ministers concerned have to move very quickly, very swiftly, to see the result of this and to show the population of the two countries the immediate result of such strategic partnership. This is an important thing. There is a second aspect which I hope will be considered in within this partnership is the vocational training. Egypt lacks vocational training much. Needs very advanced plumbers, needs a lot of those things, of those highly skilled labor, which are also needed in the Emirate and in the Gulf region. Therefore, investing in the vocational education of quality of skilled labor, in my opinion, should be an important part of this partnership. This is something I would like to see. The second thing, looking into grandiose project is almost welcomed. It's something interesting, but I think that interest to small and medium-sized enterprises will create more qualified employments in Egypt and providing good skilled laborers.
Yes.
What I will underline in a very positive way now is that I hope and I see we are in the right direction with the Emirates to shift from direct investment in consumer and retail projects. You understand exactly what I mean, which is because Egypt is a huge market.
Yes.
Even if the purchasing power is not high, but the medium purchasing power in Egypt is probably around 20 to 30 millions. It's the largest market in terms of purchasing power too.
Yes.
And I believe that the direct investment of so many countries from the Middle East has been on the retail, big supermarket, big hypermarket, big malls, etc. But this is not enough. We need industry to limit the importation. And one subject which I read about this partnership is that one of the intention, I say intention, I hope it will be transformed in reality, is to provide substitute to imports which are draining a lot of the foreign resources of our country, and our country, Egypt and Jordan. Therefore, providing substitutes to imports should be on the top of the first projects to be. It's impossible to continue buying everything from countries in Asia at a cheaper price and at a good quality after all. This can be done here, and we can definitely, with the support of Emirates, with the support of markets, wider markets in the region, redevelop our industry in the terms of textile, in the terms of metallurgy, in different ways. I'm not expert, therefore I cannot touch all those subjects, but I see the dear need to provide, as soon as we can, import substitutes.
Yes, about a week ago or 10 days ago, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli had an international press conference speaking about the economy of Egypt for the future, especially after the coronavirus pandemic and after what is going on between Ukraine and Russia. So what the future is and the plan for the future economically was outlined by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli. You've mentioned, Doctor, the vocational training for the youth. Do you think that we are closer to changing the mindset of the young men and the young women of Egypt, that we need different skills? Not all of us, we need degrees, and we wouldn't have the same opportunities for job opportunities in the market. Do you think that the change of mindset is going on?
I'm going to deceive you. No, we are not. As long as the media, media, yes, private media, government media, schools, families, do not consider vocational training and all those trades important and much better rewarded financially, yes, than getting a master's degree and whatever. We have enough doctors, we have enough architects, we don't have plumbers. I'm talking, simplifying. Yes. And the mindset is not ready. Everybody wants to send his children to school because it is social advancement, to university. It's social advancement. No. Industry in countries are going to be made by the real workers on a machine.
Not just in Egypt. You mentioned the Gulf, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates. We all need that.
Exactly, but we have the manpower, which is ready, which is intelligent. But we have to change the mindset, the culture, and we have to explain it that this is on a continuous basis, until the mentality changes. One of the most difficult things to change is the mentalities. And this had to change. I want my son to be a doctor. Why? If he wants to be a carpenter of excellence, I have one of my family who is a carpenter in Germany. And he's a carpenter. Also, his father was decorated by the German government developing medicines, etc., Bayer, Leverkusen, etc.
So
but his son wanted to be carpenter.
Field.
You know what he's doing? He's doing rehabilitation of old frames in the old museums. And he's paid 600 euros per hour.
Very specialized.
Very specialized. He specialized in a niche, which is but his study was a carpenter, vocational training. It's a simple example. I lived it and I know it. And his elder sister got 2 PhDs in Arabic language. Also, her mother is German. In Islamic things, she gives lectures at universities in Egypt and in Germany, etc., etc. But who got a better living standard is her younger brother. If you ask me personally, I might be reluctant. I have to be very, very honest with you, okay? Because I'm an old school man.
Yes.
But the new generation has to be, made. There is example. I know a doctor who is placing ceramics in houses, and he's doing very, very well and making a lot of money. And he opened a good shop. A doctor, yeah. And he's not practicing his medicine at all.
In Egypt.
In Mohandesin. Now he opened a shop in Mohandesin, a showroom for ceramics imported from Spain, I don't know from where. And he trained other guys coming from universities too. But this is an infinite minority. But the moment many of them will taste that doing this work is better remunerated and provide a better standard of living than any other thing, but the road is yours first.
Do we need bravery to change?
Absolutely, yes. You need bravery, and let me say an example. It's very simple.
Yes.
We say the world belongs to the braves. The one who got the guts and the seriousness to go into a direction and make something out of it, making a carpenter being called by London Museum or by Frankfurt Museum or Torino Museum to repair old frames coming from the Renaissance period is a marvelous thing. Therefore, there is example. There is a role, tremendous role to be played in educating people. It will take time, yes, but we have to work on it on medium, long term. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we have to start. As we say, the journey of 1,000 miles, start by mile. And I think the major responsibility is on media.
According to the directives of President Abdel al-Sisi and the implementation of those directives by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli regarding, as you mentioned, the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, do you think that we are going well in this direction?
There is, to be polite.
It is another step.
Yeah, to be polite, there is still big room. Why?
Yes.
Because all of the no, I cannot go say all. Most, but the large majority of the small, medium-sized enterprises, particularly the very small one, are directed to services. What I like in this agreement, and this is partnership announced yesterday, it is sending the message that industry is becoming one of the major priorities. Egypt can never be a full agricultural country because of question of water, land, etc., etc., etc. Future of Egypt is in industry, and the small enterprises you see now are mostly directed to services. Providing service is a product. A service is a product. I'm not saying no, but what we need is industrial product. We need to produce this concrete at the quality required, but world markets, and at the price competitive with the other, and you understand what I mean, or producing the same in an excellent quality.
The future is industry, yes,
I have no doubt about this.
To those agreements. But do we have the capabilities of doing it?
Yes, we have it. If we have the political will to insist on it clearly, it can happen. It will not happen tomorrow. But by hammering and hammering and hammering, by explaining and explaining and explaining, but all the ones responsible for explaining from the top to the bottom, it will bring a result, not immediate. I repeat, we have to be patient because changing the mentality is the most difficult things to happen on Earth in general. But we have to start. We have been trying since 70 years. It's enough. If you tell me what are the interrogation mark I have today is, okay, having the partnership agreement is marvelous. What I like to see is that in 2 months you call me to come to comment on what has been done effectively on the ground, concretely, tangibly. Did we have this or not? Did we have so many or not? And on real ground. That's essential. And this makes the responsibility of the government, the Prime Minister and his ministers, and level below that, to facilitate this.
Is it easier now to be getting through the red tape and the bureaucracy, to be getting where we want to be?
I think the intention exists. I think the intention exists, but the legacy of so many years, and when I say legacy of so many years, does not mean 70 years. It can go back to the Mamluk times. 300 years of laziness, of exploiting the population in the agricultural sector only, the presence of foreign troops in Egypt, English and French before, etc., etc., to obtain their interests. Why cotton was established in Egypt essentially? It's because the British needed the cotton for their armaments. Why they made the railways as the second country in the world in terms of having railways is because they want to transport all the goods for them, in this hub, which was Egypt, between, the West and the East, between India and Europe.
Yes.
Therefore, the blame doesn't go for 6 or 70 years. It goes for a few hundred years of inactivity in this field. It's true that Muhammad Ali period opened the door for certain things, but you need to build up. There was no build up after him, seriously. Okay, people can argue, during Ibrahim Pasha, there have been this was superficial. People have to excuse me. Okay, building new road, creating the Garden City place, the Zamalek and the Bulak, which in French means the Bolak, the nice lake.
Nice lake, yes.
You sure. Is marvelous, and it's a sign of modernity. I don't say it should not be there.
Do we have the same vision and the same path for development now?
Again, yes, I think at the top level there is a serious intention. There is a serious intention.
Of course, there will be hardships.
But does everybody follow this seriously and actively on the ground again? Because promises we hear every day. What we like to see is the working level, the implementation people who are responsible for implementation of all of this will do it hardly with conviction. And the matter is not only a matter of financing. We have to be clear. The essence is a mental mindset.
A culture.
A culture. Look to Malaysia 50 years ago, where it is. But because the culture, supported by the Chinese mentality and culture to work very seriously and very hardly, they break through at a lower level, but still relatively successful. Indonesia. I don't think we lack anything to be like this and even better. Turkey, not speaking about the political regime, 56 years ago was an awkward country in terms of industry. Okay, you go to the markets in all Europe, it's flooded by Turkish products. Not speaking about China, which is another story. In the early 50s, we were equal to China. Therefore, the possibilities exist if you want, and it can be done in 10, 15 years. I'm throwing a figure like this. I repeat, I'm not an expert.
Yes.
But by following what's happening, it's a possibility, and it can happen with putting the pressure on the implementation and implementers.
Yes, Dr. Hany, we'll be taking a quick break and we'll be returning once again to you on the Daily Debate So stay tuned.
اللي بيتعمل ده من فضل ربنا علينا، ونتقدم وهنتقدم اكتر، وده اللي يهمنا ان احنا ندي للناس.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate. Dr. Hany Abdel, the former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. As we have spoken during the first part of the daily debate about the agreements that were made between Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, why do you always think that the meetings, the agreements are always done between tripartite meetings between Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Egypt, Cyprus, Greece? Why can't we have the same agreements with a bigger number of countries in different fields?
But again, as I said before, the journey of 1,000 miles start with a mile. If this agreement is put in force and implemented on the ground in a very pragmatic way and without any complications, okay?
Yes.
Definitely, many others will come asking to join by themselves. Will not have to go and beg them to come. They will come by themselves to join if they want to join success. There is a French says, il faut voler au secours de la victoire. In other terms, we have to fly fast to help victory. If we are victorious, if we are successful in this field between the three countries, and I hope it will, but fast, swiftly, okay? Why not other countries? You know, I cannot mention particular names, but probably Libya will be very interested in someday. Yes. Maybe Lebanon will be very much interested in someday. Kuwait will be interesting. It's a step towards the creation of an industrial economic zone of economic industrial integrity, integration, I mean, between the parties. If other countries, even entities, want to join someday, you know, the statute can be modified to allow this if they see interest. But if they see it another dormant agreement like the ones we have since 30, 40, 50 years and more,
yes,
you know, and with nothing concrete again, tangible, why they will come? Essence of things are interests. Interests, mutually profitable interests. Of course they'll come asking joining, but we have to succeed first.
Doctor, you mentioned that there are different areas that we need to be having growth and development in. The agreements that we are witnessing now are focusing, for example, on pharmaceuticals, on minerals, on fertilizers, on food and agriculture, on different fields. Do you see that those are the fields that we need developing in Egypt and in the Arab world?
Probably those fields have been subject to negotiations between the parties, between the three partners. Therefore, not being an expert, I reiterate, it's they're surely a result of some professional review. But as a layman, I would say that environment, renewable sources of energy, new and renewable sources of energy should have appeared as a system. Maybe it is hidden somewhere or can be incorporated in one of the subjects. But the solar power, for example, is one of the very successful subjects in the Middle East and in Egypt. The development of hydrogen, green hydrogen production is also something very important. We will have in September, you know, this famous world meeting, international meeting on the climate changes, in which there will be a lot of debates, as usual. But being a United Nations person, I know that we talk a lot, and we do not a lot.
Very honest.
It's a reality. It's a reality. It's a reality. And if we don't make the appropriate diagnostic of the problem, we will never find the real remedy. If I'm in diagnosis, if the diagnosis is if I cold and in fact I have a kidney problem, better doctor will not resolve it. Therefore, I believe the frankness and the straightforwardness I hope I have, can eventually help a little in pushing to obtaining concrete things on the ground and make people visit and give them in transparent way the results, the balance sheet, the whole thing. People will come.
Yes, the COP27 will be held here in Egypt in Sharm el-Sheikh, I think in the month of November.
November or September?
I think it's November.
Oh,
how do you see the importance of Egypt hosting the summit, I think, as the first African, as the first Arab, as the first Middle Eastern country to be hosting? Yes, to be hosting this summit. You mentioned that there is a lot of talk, nothing a lot of it to be implemented. What can be implemented of the promises that we have seen in Glasgow, for example, in the COP26, could be implemented this time in the COP27, especially that we know that the climate change is affecting Africa without even harming the environment and harming the climate on the long term as much as the more industrialized countries?
First of all, let me say that the simple fact that Egypt and Sharm el-Sheikh were selected to host this meeting is 50% of the result, because it puts Egypt at the forefront of the subject and as a major mental and political hub for it. Yes. Therefore, it's a much successful political result obtaining holding this meeting in Egypt. Yes. Now, how the meeting will be run, I am sure that the technical capabilities for organizing conference are there. We did much better than this before, much bigger, etc. Therefore, I have no doubt about how this. The problem is how to transform the words into deeds, how to transform the financial pledges into effective, not effective money to come to Egypt. Effective money come to the corporation and to the subjects and to the activities, who need this now to implement the political decision. Therefore, on the political side, I think it's already successful. It will continue to be successful in holding the meeting, because I don't see technical problems in holding such a big conference. But the major problem is how to insist between the political leader of all countries attending to transform the deeds into realities on the ground, yes, and not to limit themselves to pledges, because we know by the international standard about what I saw, when there is a pledge for £100 or $100, not countries, I mean the projects themselves don't receive more than 20%. Therefore we have to transform that and get very pragmatic on the ground to get the thing done on pragmatic way, not just a show.
The future is renewable energy, as you mentioned, Doctor. How do you see the steps taken here in Egypt, in the Arab world more generally, and in Africa to be going towards the future for a cleaner environment, for a better future for the other generations, the next generations?
No, it's go much better and above what you mentioned now.
Yes.
In terms of reputation and political, by following more or less the subject on the media, definitely Egypt has a name, has a name on this. Egypt is raising a lot of hopes. However, just yesterday I read an article, yes, putting doubts about the ability of Egypt to keep its promises in this. Okay, you can tell me, yes, it is a conspiracy. It's possible. It's not impossible. It's a possibility, but to overcome all of this, you have to get the result and show the result. The moment you have the result and show it properly to everybody, okay, you kill all those eventual conspiracy theories existing, which probably will appear now. Because there is competition between the countries in the region. There's competition between Egypt and Algeria, between Egypt and Morocco, on those subjects, between Egypt and Israel. There is plenty of competition. Everybody wants to destroy his competition. I have no problem with that. Okay, we have to compete better. We have to compete better. And our battle for competition is not on financial, is not on condition. Our battle is in the swift, fast implementation of concrete project without all the bureaucracy and complication of this little functionary sitting, blocking everything because he doesn't have the stamp of whatever. Excuse me for my frankness. Here lies a problem. And if those people who are not really sanctioned for not accomplishing their duties, it's not going to function. You need people with guts. You need people who want to take decision, who want to assume, who are accepting a level of adventure, accepting a level of risk, exactly, to more. And this goes to from the top to the upper levels, moving. But everybody, a director will not do anything before his subordinate or his deputy sign, and the other before X sign, and a stamp, and several stamp. No, it's not this way Malaysia make itself. It's not this way Indonesia made itself. It's not this way Cambodia is making itself actually. Vietnam is making itself now. Okay? We have to move and we have to put people at work and put an end to this endless bureaucracy and paperwork.
On the other hand, how do you see the future of the economy here in Egypt specifically, because we have implemented the economic reform program, and it kind of had a number of good effects, positive effects, especially after the coronavirus pandemic and the current crisis between Ukraine and Russia. How do you see the future of the Egyptian economy, especially that we could be having another economic reform program?
Look, I prefer not to answer your question, but I will answer. Okay? Yes. Yesterday, I read one of those assessment bodies, very well known, Moody's, assessment of the economy of Egypt.
Yes.
Right? It's just yesterday. Okay? Egypt was graded B2, which is not bad, because the A's A1, A2, A3, is to very advanced, developed, industrial countries with a huge, with a much better commercial balance, and what comes, because commercial balance is essence of everything. Everything starts from there. If the balance of trade is positive, all of this balance of payment can be better. Everything can be better.
Yes.
And don't forget what he imports 70% of what we need. And here I have hope in the, this partnership if it goes fast. But Moody's, okay, B2 assessment for today is not bad. B1 is better, but B2 it's not bad. It's what we have. It's stable.
Yes.
They call it B2 stable. But for the future, it's negative. I don't believe 100% what they say. I'm waiting to read other assessment coming from other directions. But the fact that we need today, another program with the Fonds monétaire international, with the FMI, IMF, I'm sorry, is important. I see the government is taking steps. I see to remedy this or to alleviate, mitigate, I would say, the impact of the crisis, COVID, and the Ukraine, I would say, economic world crisis. Yes, the government is not inactive. The government is trying its best, and the limits of action is limited also, because we are not the only player in all of this.
Yes.
Simply because the population growth is tremendous. Yes, it's a subject the government has to tackle seriously. Yes. Yesterday or the day before, I met with a doctor.
So we need more steps for the future. Dr. Hany Aziz, the former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. And
this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.